Good morning. This is Shelby Law with the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Saturday, July 12th, 2020. Fire potential impacts for the next few days are shown here. The big story is just the hot and dry weather that'll be sticking around and building across the Great Basin into the first part of next week. However, we do have some breezy winds down in southeast Utah today, below red flag warning criteria, but highlighting them based off the fire activity there. And then on Monday, we'll start to see some isolated storms move into the far northeast Idaho and far northwest Nevada. Or Wyoming. Yesterday was a pretty quiet day for lightning and precipitation. Just had a few very isolated storms there in far eastern Utah. The initial attack for yesterday was on the lighter side with 9 new fires for over 2,300 acres. We had this new fire in western Nevada and in northeast Idaho. Large fire growth was over 14,000 acres, and most of that was on the Deer Creek and the White Sage fires. The observed precipitation, 30 days percent of normal, continues to show very dry conditions across Utah and Nevada, with slightly less critical conditions over Idaho and the far southern tip of Nevada, with some precipitation that came in about 10 days ago. ERCs continue to be quite high over parts of Utah and southern Nevada, where we see many stations above the 90th and even 97th percentiles. ERCs aren't necessarily telling the whole story right now, with some very dry 1,000-hour dead trees across portions of eastern and southern Utah. Trends for a few of these areas are shown here. Along the Sierra Front, where we saw that 300-acre fire yesterday, shows those values right around the 80th percentile and increasing to the 90th percentile over the next week. And further south along the Arizona Strip, those values are at historical records right now at the 97th percentile and look to remain there for at least the next 7 days. Smoke impacts are shown here. We definitely have some smoke impacts, especially across the southern parts of the Great Basin, where we've got some large fires ongoing. This morning's satellite imagery shows an area of high pressure building over the southwest portion of the country, especially over California. We'll see that ridge expand over the geographic area over the coming days for generally sunny skies and warming temperatures. Again, for today, ridge of high pressure over southern California, keeping things warm across the area and keeping some light northerly flow in place as well. No high risk triggers for today. Looking at the afternoon wind gusts again, looking for some breezy conditions over eastern Utah with winds out of the north to northwest, maybe gusting to 15 to 25 miles an hour. Minimum relative humidities are going to be near the single digits for most of the areas in Utah and Nevada, a little bit higher across the north. More of the same is expected on Sunday as the ridge continues to strengthen across the Great Basin. No high risk triggers for tomorrow. Winds lighten up a bit tomorrow as that ridge expands across the area, and relative humidities remain very dry across Utah and Nevada and the lower elevations of Idaho as well, with only slightly higher values over the higher elevations. On Monday, there is a trough moving through the northern Rockies, bringing some relief to them, but not so much on our side. We'll see winds pick up a bit on Monday ahead of that little backdoor cold front over the northern Rockies, and maybe some isolated storms moving into our far northeastern portions of the area as well, but no high risk. So on Monday, again, winds picking up mainly over northern Utah and parts of southern Idaho, and then we'll see some isolated storms over far eastern Idaho, western Wyoming, and maybe a storm or two over northern Utah. 3-day precip totals don't show too much in the way of precip, maybe just some very isolated storms moving in that Monday time frame with a little bit of moisture moving in to the area from the northeast. On Tuesday, that cold front continues to move through the northern Rockies, not really doing too much for us here. We'll still be generally warm and dry, but breezy winds picking up across the southern parts of the Great Basin, Utah and Nevada on Tuesday, but still remaining very dry and warm. And then on Wednesday, continued warm and dry conditions. No high-risk triggers issued at the moment. On Thursday, we'll start to see the pattern change just a little bit. Could maybe start to see some southerly moisture coming back up into the Great Basin for some isolated storms. And then southwest flow picking up over the Great Basin with a little low off the California coast here. No high-risk triggers issued at the moment. The 7-day precip total is shown here, really still keeping things dry across the basin all through the 7-day period, but towards the middle of next week, we may see some isolated storms over the southern Utah mountains with some just a little bit of moisture maybe squeaking up into the southern area. An extended forecast for July 19th through the 25th keeps things warm across the entire western U.S. And we have this nice area of below normal precipitation right on top of the Great Basin. The monsoons are making themselves very scarce these days for the Great Basin. So continued warm and dry pattern really expected through the third week of July. That concludes today's fire potential briefing. Please check back tomorrow for the latest update.